Okay, so I'm going to read uh, the text on the left-hand side of the story, the left-hand side of the of the page here. And so this story is Lautréamont, and it was written by a Russian guy. I'm forgetting his name for the moment, but Rudin was his surname. We'll come on to that. So I've just let Giuseppe into the class. I'll just say hello to Giuseppe. Hello,
Hello,
Giuseppe.
hello,
Hello,
good
Giuseppe.
evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry I'm late. I had some trouble with my computer, but at the same time, I am so curious about this reading. And
Well, you've
I,
already read it. So I'm just going to read the text on the left-hand side of the page here where the cursor is. And and off we go. So I'll do it now. Then I'm going to hand over to Ruslan to read the text on this side of the page over here. Okay, so Le Traitement, that's the title up here. It goes, at the very beginning of the century, when the internet had not yet been banned, a curious work came into my hands by an unknown inventor, who claimed that he had constructed an instrument which could transmit small uniform objects any distance using existing lines of communication. In his article, the author described in detail the operating principle of this device, presented some drawings, and declared that the first experiments had been successful. He had managed to transmit a silver ingot of about 10 grams from his laboratory in France to his other laboratory in Argentina. The silver atoms had been turned in the transformer into streams of free electrons, protons, and neutrons, and passed through the wires to the same apparatus at the other end of the world, where they were once again turned into atoms. Okay, that's that bit there. So, any questions about that little bit there? We spent a few minutes looking at that, haven't we already? So, before the recording started. So, any other questions from anybody? Any words that we don't understand? So, we looked at ingot, and so that's really another name for a. In this case, it's a silver ingot, so we could say a silver bar. It could be a gold bar. So that's just a convenient shape and size of a metal normally. Basically, it's a gold bar or a silver bar normally, but it could be other metals too. Anyone, any questions about a little bit there? Okay, so it's over to Ruslan. So are you okay reading this chunk of passage here on this side of the
Uh,
page?
yes, I will try.
Okay, over to you.
Okay, can I start? Yeah.
Yes, please, thanks. Yes.
The system of equation describing the process took up millions of pages, and it was hard for me to imagine what kind of genius this was that could fill up so many remnants of paper. After a few years, when scientific and technological progress had been tweaked and refined a bit more, and it had become possible to transmit products made of different materials in the same way. Online trading reached its peak, and the level of well-being was measured by the size of individual transformers.
Mm.
The process of transmitting objects, which had previously taken years, uh, Lautréamont needed 10 years to transfer his silver ingot to Argentina. Took only hours. then only second, uh, as we transference technologies were invented. After Lauremont became the richest man in the world, he began to control its destiny. Transformation pre- predetermined a new phenomenon, uh, com- compilation,
Hmm.
compilation.
Mm. That's it. We'll hold it there. So these last three words probably best with the next person.
Yeah,
Reasonably easy words. So how was that for you? I thought it was quite good. How was that for you? That music?
yeah, but to be honest, it was for me difficult because
Mm.
I saw in this text a couple of new words, and
Mm.
as
There
well
will be.
I
Hopefully, there
yeah.
will always be. Hopefully, yeah. So, what were your
Yeah,
new words then? What were your new words you hadn't seen before? I guess.
yeah.
Any
Let me.
idea?
It is on the first sentences of equations.
Mm.
Equations.
So, yeah, you're pretty close. That's pronounced as equations. Equations.
Equations.
That's
Yeah.
it. So, have you heard of the equation m equals mc squared? Have you heard of that? Me equals.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah. Equal.
equation.
Oh, it is.
Einstein's classically credited to Einstein's equation, isn't it? Supposedly. And I can't put the 2 up there, but so it'd just be down there. So E equals mc squared, isn't it? And there's lots of other equations, isn't there? All sorts of equations, in mathematical equations. Yeah, okay. So
Equations.
that's the
Yeah.
English word, yeah.
Equations.
So I think sort pretty much originally most equations have an equal sign, a mathematical equal sign, where my cursor is up there. And I've always thought that the equal, the equo, was to do with equals. This equa bit here. I've always assumed it was to do with equals. I guess it is, but perhaps it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And
Okay. Any other
it
word? Which other
sound.
word? Hmm.
Yeah. Image. Kind of genius. Yeah. Okay. Genius. Genius is okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sentence. Had been tweaked. Tweaked.
Tweaked. Yes, tweaked. You
Yeah.
pronouncing that quite well, actually. Tweaked. That's it. Yes, tweaked.
Tweaked. Yeah. But
So,
problem is I
hmm.
don't understand what does it mean tweaked.
Okay, so if you tweak something, you're just moving it very slightly. You're just changing it slightly in some way. Now, it might be the settings on a computer. You're just tweaking the settings on a computer. Or you might tweak the ingredients in a cake that you're making. So it's a very slight change, a very slight change. You just tweak something.
Mm-hmm.
You might also tweak somebody's ear. You might there's just a twist of their ear. That's another sort of a similar meaning, which is a little bit more unusual, I guess. So, so that's tweak or tweaked. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay. Thank
the
you.
ed is the past tense.
Yeah.
So I notice you spent a little bit of time over this word when my cursor's towards the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
So what about this word? Any idea what that means? Okay, it's hard to pronounce, but what does it mean? Any idea? I guess anyway. Not sure.
Predetermined. It is like probably prediction, no?
You're in the
Predict.
sort of the right area, but not so much prediction. It's more like doing, I suppose. So if you predetermine something, you could say you're deciding it beforehand. So if you predetermine what you're going to watch on television or what you're going to do for tomorrow on your day off, perhaps you're going to predetermine to play a game of football. It means you're deciding beforehand. Something has been decided beforehand.
uh,
So if you
we can.
determine something, is sort of decide it or pick it in some way. If you determine something, and if you predetermine, the pre bit means doing it beforehand. If you
It
preview
is.
something, that means pre-doing viewing something beforehand. If you preview something. So in this case, to predetermine means you're doing it, you're deciding something beforehand, earlier in some way. Does that make sense?
Uh,
Predetermined?
yeah, it is
Yeah.
probably like in advance. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
the pre
example,
bit,
I
that's right.
have
The
booked
pre bit means in advance. That's it.
in advance. Yeah.
And the
Okay.
determined bit is effectively saying deciding
Yeah.
something, making a
Yeah.
decision
Yeah.
about something, whatever that might be. We don't know. Um, okay. So you said about this word up here, where my cursor is up here with the G. So what's that word again? Up there?
Uh, Genius. Yeah.
Oh, what
Genius.
does it mean?
Genius.
And what does it
It,
mean?
it is like uh, open to help. Yeah.
O- Open to help. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is means that
What sort of
people
help?
kind for you, yeah, ready to help, ready to give some
Right.
advice, yeah.
Okay. Let's pop it into the dictionary. I've got one here. Have I spelled it correctly? Yes, I have, strangely. So first of all, we normally say this word as genius. Genius. Genius.
Mm,
Okay, but let's listen to them.
Genius.
There we go. So, and it's the plural version there. So, uncountable noun and accountable noun, two versions here. So, genius is very great ability or skill in a particular subject or activity. And that's the uncountable version. But as a countable noun, a genius, so that it's this idea of a number here, isn't it? A, there could be two of them, I suppose. So a genius is a highly talented, creative, or intelligent person. So Leonardo da Vinci, we did him, if you remember, a few weeks back or a month back now. He's often regarded as a genius, and they're saying here that
mm,
Chaplin was not just a genius. It's saying here as a possible.
mm.
So it's not quite the meaning you were saying, I think, really. I
Yeah,
think they might be
yeah, yeah.
connected, but not really. And again, there's a whole series of noun versions here. It's even an Arabic one here. Oh, that's true. So if you think about genius, another similar word is genie. Genie is similar to genius. So, but they're saying here the Arabic version is actually jinn, I think, isn't it? So that's number six. So we'll leave that. That's just an interesting aside there. We don't really often use that very much in English, I think, but it's nice to be aware of these things when you're reading. Um, so that's. So do you want to say that word there for me again now? So where my cursor is.
Yeah, what kind of genius?
That's it. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah. So what kind of genius this, etc., etc. There we go. And just below genius, there's other word here. So
Rims,
yeah, that's it.
rims.
You've got it now. That's it. Reams. That's it. Spot on. Reams. So what? Why is it talking about reams? What does that mean? What does reams mean?
Rims, it is plural,
Yeah.
plural, I can
Hmm.
see, yeah. And
Hmm.
it's something connected with paper, or I
That's
don't
it.
know.
That's it. So years ago, when paper was much more important than it is now, I say more important because probably its computer screens are more important now. I think a ream of paper, I think it's 120 sheets, but really it's an awful lot of paper. In this sense here, that's all they're really saying, a very large amount of paper. But technically, I think a ream is 120 sheets. I might be wrong. It might be 80. It might be 200. I don't know. But having said that, let's just pop it into the dictionary because maybe that will confirm it one way or the other. So I said ream, and let's see what it comes up with. Oh, it doesn't really. It's saying countable now. It says if you say that there are reams, but they're using the plural again here, of paper or reams of writing, you mean that there are large amounts of it. So it's just really large amounts. But there is technically a number to it originally. So if someone says go out and buy a ream of something, it would be a certain number. Okay. So any words there that you're not quite sure of the meaning at all, Ruslan? I think you said you're pretty good on most of it.
For me, it is difficult to say the title of this
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
This guy. Well, this is a name. It's a French name, so it's not in English. So when I
Ah,
say it, I'm saying it with a French accent. In a way that might not be very helpful. But most people, I think, when most British people, when they see that, they will guess, oh, this MONT ending, oh, it definitely looks French. And so they would almost certainly, most people would say that is French and try to say it with in a French accent. Especially with that little, see, there's a little dash over the E, that accent over the E. There's no accents in English at all. So straight away, most people would know that's a foreign language and almost certainly French. And you would probably never see this name again unless you're a philosopher or a poet or something. That's the only way you'll come across this name. So we won't really practice this name as such, I think. Maybe the word just below, though. I think when you said this word, it didn't sound quite right. I think when you said it, just try once more that word there where my cursor is.
ingot,
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. You've got it. Maybe I just
ingot.
misheard it. Yeah. So ingot. Yeah, that's good. That's good, I think. So Michael and Giuseppe, are there any words here that you want to go back over again that you notice a bit new words for you or that sort of thing? Pronunciation's a
R-
bit strange. Michael, Giuseppe, oh, Ruslan.
Rims.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
According,
reams. Yeah.
according to the Oxford Dictionary, special
Oh yeah.
terms, it's 500
Is
sheets
it
of paper.
really? Oh
Yeah,
wow. I had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't know that. Oh, 500. I've learned something there. Strange. Wow. Yeah. So that is a heck of a lot of paper. Wow. So maybe at the bottom, maybe just to finish off Ruslan. So this last paragraph here has only got about 7 or 8 words in it, but they're all pretty much most of them are long words, tricky words. So if I just read it to you, could you just practice those last few words again? So because it is a bit
Yeah.
tricky. So transformation, predetermined, a new phenomenon, compilation. So if I just go through those words, so transformation really just means change. Something is being changed. You could say changed. That's what really transformation means. And predetermined means decided beforehand. Decided beforehand. A new phenomenon, a strange occurrence which is unusual, peculiar. And the word compilation. That's related to the word compile, isn't it? That's on this page here as well somewhere. So this is a variation on the word, or another word form, you might say, I guess, of compile. So you okay reading that last paragraph again, that very small paragraph at the end?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Transformation, predetermined, no, predetermined, a new phenomenon, uh, com, compl, compilation.
Yeah, that's actually that's not too bad actually. That's pretty good. Compilation. So just do the compilation maybe. So
Compilation.
compilation and again compilation.
I don't know this word.
So do you know what the word compile means? Compile?
No.
No, okay. So if you compile something, you're putting it together gradually, bit by bit. So we're talking about paper, that's like many, many sheets of paper. If you're compiling a book out of sheets of paper, you're building it sheet by sheet, maybe, chunk by chunk. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
paragraph by paragraph, perhaps. So that's compiling it, putting it together.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is
It is like
compilation.
gather in an order, yeah, and it's
Yes,
should look like a book or something else, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it could be compiling anything really. Yeah, I think in computer language, computers talk about compilers, don't they? In computers or
Mm,
whatever. So yes, it has that sort of a thing. Yeah, that's it. But thinking about a book is quite useful. So and with books in particular, you do sometimes talk about a compilation, and that's bringing perhaps several books together. In particular, that's one way that word is used
mm,
in regard to books. So this book we're reading at the moment, with this title, Lautréamont, this is one story in this overall. The whole book itself is called "Strange Occurrence in the Region of the Heart." That's what the whole book is called. That and Lautréamont is this one story out of 12, I think, in this compilation of short stories. So this is one story in a compilation of short stories. So it's a way of saying this has been compiled together, lots of things been brought together, lots of stories to make one book, and it's a compilation. Okay. Okay, right. Hopefully that makes sense. Right. Okay. So it's over to you, Giuseppe. Now we've read these bits here. Is it okay if we go over the page? Is everyone any last questions or things to say about this before we roll over the page?
Yeah.
That,
Is it my turn or
yes,
Michael's?
yes, it's your turn, Giuseppe. That's okay. I've just turned the page over. So this is your bit here where my
Okay.
cursor is. But is it okay if we just go back to the last page and have a look? Because there was just three words down here. So it starts off down the bottom of this page. It says
Okay.
there was no. So if we remember that there was no. So is it okay if we just stick on the very front? There was
Okay.
no longer, and then carry on. Is that okay, Giuseppe? So thanks if you can. So there was no.
There was no longer any need to move elementary particles over a great distance, since a method had been discovered of compiling any object out of elements that were all around. So piles of metals, uh, polymers, and other materials were transformed in seconds into cars, microwaves, and refrigerators. The omnipotent Lautréamont declared the start of a new post-information age for civilization. Energy produced by mankind used to operate compilers on a global scale almost equaled the cost of lighting, heating, movement of all modes of transport, maintenance of life, and production of all kinds of goods, including the compilers themselves. Only a few more years were needed before these processes would be redundant, when all energy would be used for compilation.
Okay, you're stopping there. That's fantastic.
Oh,
Really good reading. Are you stopping there, or are you carrying on? Or, sorry.
okay, maybe another short paragraph.
Yeah.
The law of the conservation of matter had an appended section known as Lautréamont's theorem, according to which matter exists in the form of information.
Which is, that last little bit is interesting. So yes, very, very good, fantastic reading, as always, in fact, of course. So, and I have to say, you were very good with the video on YouTube. You picked out every error, I should say, that and even one that I hadn't noticed myself.
I
So well
felt so
done.
embarrassed, actually.
No, you were very good. It was brilliant, in fact, brilliant. Well done. Okay, so back to this little reading here then. So anything you want to ask about here? Anything pronunciation wise or
Maybe
meaning?
in the last line, theorem or something else.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it, really. So theorem. Yeah. So it's related to theory, but normally it's I think of it down as the written down version of it. So let's tap it into the dictionary so we can learn. Whoops! Oh my! Oh, look, my spelling's terrible. Oh, blast! Look at my spelling. Look at that. Too many O's in it now. Wrong O. Ah, got there eventually. Do forgive my spelling. It's actually appalling. So yes. So theorem. A theorem is a statement in mathematics or logic that can be proved to be true by reasoning. So similar words might be proposition, statement, formula, rule, etc. So let's listen to them saying it.
Theorem.
Theorem, she said there. Yeah. So do you want to give it one more go? So theorem, Michael. So Giuseppe, I should say.
Yeah. Theorem.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's how most people would say it. Yes, theorem. She gave a lot of emphasis to the th, I think, didn't she? But yes, most people were just quite gentle on that. So it's basically the same as theory, you could say.
And on the fifth line, I don't know where the word stress is in polymers or something. It's
Polymers, you have it
polymers.
spot on. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Polymers. That's it.
Polymers.
Polymers. Yeah. So most people think of this as plastics, long chains of carbon atoms, polymers.
And
Mhm.
civilization. Is it correct?
Realization, did you say?
No, it's in this when we have the omnipotent Lautréamont declared, the last word is civilization.
Yeah, that's pretty good, I would say. Civilization. Civilization. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone would understand that. Every single word you said there might be slight variations, I think was perfectly understandable for any English person or American. I was thinking about that word when you said it. It was perhaps slightly out, but you're pretty good there. But I think when you said this word up here, so piles. So if I just read that sentence back to you, then so piles of metals, polymers, and other materials were transformed in seconds into cars, microwaves, and refrigerators. So just the piles, maybe. Do that again, perhaps.
Yeah. So piles of metals.
Okay, it's good enough to understand it, so I can definitely understand what you're saying. It's just the emphasis sounds a little bit out, I would say. So they're making it a plural. If I take the S off, that's hopefully let's listen to them here. So it's a large mass. They're saying a large mass of something. A pile of nails, a large group of nails. Perhaps use those piles. Let's listen to them saying piles.
piles,
Piles. Do it once more, Giuseppe?
Yeah.
Piles.
Piles.
Okay. Um, I, I think they are saying sort of give emphasis to sort of the vowel in the middle, but I think you're overdoing it slightly. Or the vowel and the L, I suppose. Is it the L? No, just the I, isn't it really? I think you're overdoing the overemphasizing it, I'd say, in the middle. Um, let's listen to them. Are they how strong are they doing the emphasis?
pile,
Pile. Oh, let's do the but just put the S on it again.
piles,
Piles. I would say most people say it that way, yes. And the way he's saying it singular, I don't think many people really say it that way, to be honest. But when he's putting the S on the end, that sounds pretty good. So piles, piles. I think you're overdoing the emphasis in the middle. So just tone it back a little bit. So once more, I say it once more, then it's your go, Giuseppe, if that's okay. So piles, piles, your go, Giuseppe.
Piles.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. That's it. That's spot on. That's pretty good,
Yeah,
actually. Very good. Yeah, that's it.
because when I see the IPA transcript is pile and piles, but when I
Hmm.
listen to the voice, it is come and kind of E sound that intrudes is piles.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
it's
mm.
something
Yeah,
that
yeah. I appreciate what you're saying there, actually. Let's listen to the. Is there a French? This is the British one again, isn't it? Well, listen to the British one again.
pile,
Pile. Um, I keep saying the British. Going for the American one. What kind of the American one? It's exactly the same.
pile,
Pile. Pile. Yeah, you have a point, but I'm not saying you're wrong or anything. I think necessarily wrong, but I don't really hear people saying it that way, to be honest. I think when he says the piles with the S on the end, most people say it this way, obviously without the S, but they sort of say it this way. If that makes any sense. So maybe technically you're saying it the way the dictionary is, but I don't really hear people say that, to be honest. Um, so does anyone else have any other dictionaries, like the Oxford Dictionary? Do they have the exact same IPA coding there? Or maybe we'll come back to that at the end, because we're almost at the end of the class here, aren't we? So we'll look at that at the end if we get a second or two. It's a good point you've raised, and it's not the first time, actually. I mean, it's quite a good number of times that there's sort of a debate about exactly how to pronounce it, I think. Um, the only words I say only words, was a couple of words, but it's really sort of just slight, subtle sounds, I think. Um, so maybe I think the word years has come up before. Years, years. So maybe if I just read that paragraph there, it's quite a short one. If I read it to you, but concentrating on the word years, years. Um, I guess in a sentence, again, a lot of words sound different in a sentence to when if you say them just on their own, if you're practicing one word on its own, they do sound quite different sometimes. So I'll read the this paragraph here down to you. So only a few more years were needed before, I'll say it again. So only a few more years were needed before these processes would be redundant, when all energy would be used for compilation. So if I just read that sentence once more, then it's your go. So just that half a sentence, that top line, I should say. So only a few more years were needed before. So your go, Giuseppe.
only a few more years were needed before
Mm,
these processes would be redundant,
yeah,
when all energy would be used for compilation.
yeah. I like your compilation. That's absolutely perfect. Your compilation is very, very good. There's no hint of an accent there whatsoever, I would say. Well done. But I would say there is a slight awkwardness in years. It is a tricky sound to get, but again, I would say you're overcooking the y, I suppose, or the ye, the sound at the beginning. It is tempting to overdo it. So if I just read that top line again, it's quite flat. I don't think it's. Yeah, I think you're giving a little bit too much emphasis to it. So only a few more years were needed before. So in a sentence, it's sort of quite flat, I would say. So only a few more years were needed before. So once more, maybe, Giuseppe?
Only a few more years were
Oh,
needed before.
yeah. That was better. But the sounds we sort of make, I think you're making the individual sounds were better before, but you had the wrong emphasis before. But this time you had the right emphasis, but you lost some of the sounds you were making. So it's tricky,
Okay.
isn't it? So you got one bit but lost the other. So it was the sounds weren't quite right this time. So maybe a few more years, maybe a few more years, just a little bit
A
there.
few more years. No, a
You
few
know?
more years.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah.
It wants a bit more practice. It still wants practice. And this word has come up before. It has come up before, hasn't it? So, but yeah, you are getting better. I would definitely say you're getting better. Don't lose heart or anything. Um, any other words? So maybe there's this word here. This is a word is quite tricky. So it relates to the word if you're to the word maintain. But this is the word, there's another variation on the word. So this is, how would you say this word? So this is maintenance. Maintenance. It's very tempting.
Maintenance.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You've got it. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. No accent whatsoever. So it's got this 10 in the middle, sort of unexpectedly. If you maintain something, you say you give it maintenance, you might say. Good, well done. I can't remember how you said this word here. So just say that word again there where my cursor is. Okay.
Omnipotent.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it is, I think I think you can sort of say omnipotent if you really
Good.
wanted to perhaps give emphasis to it. But 99% of the time, really, most people say omnipotent, exactly as you're saying. You're spot on correct. But you will occasionally hear some people say omnipotent. It might be sometimes because God is credited with having three of these omni words. So God is omnipotent, he's omnipresent, but they all start with omni, and omniscient means all knowing, doesn't it? But they all start with omni. But if you wanted to emphasize the omni bit at the beginning, you might say omnipotent occasionally. And that might be a situation when you're doing it. Very good. Anything else you want to ask about here, Giuseppe?
No, I think.
Actually, is it okay we both of us reread the top paragraph at the beginning? Perhaps if I read it first, and then it's your go. So it started off with, there was no, so that wasn't really a problem, but so there are some sort of long and unusual words in here. So, but we did polymers, that was okay. So if I read it first of all, so there is no, or there was, or there is. Oh, there was no. Okay. So there was no longer any need to move elementary particles. So elementary, I'm saying there. So there was no need to move elementary particles over a great distance, since a method, so method, had been discovered of compiling any object out of elements, so elements that were all around. So piles, so so piles of metals, polymers, and other materials were transformed in seconds into cars, microwaves, and refrigerators. So you'll go again. So it starts off with there was no. That's it. Okay. There was no that paragraph again. You'll
Yeah,
go.
there was no longer any need to move elementary particles over a great distance, since a method had been discovered of compiling any object out of elements that were all around. So piles of metals, polymers, and other materials were transformed in seconds into cars, microwaves, and refrigerators.
It's really good. Very, very good. So maybe just the word seconds. So transformed in seconds into cars. So transformed in seconds into cars. So that little bit again, maybe.
Transform, transformed in seconds into cars.
Yeah, that's better. That's even better. Well done. Very good. Very good. Brilliant. But very good reading. Well done. So do you want to talk about this for a little bit, you guys? Interesting story.
Yeah, I have a little question for you.
Mm.
Where you picked up this book and
Oh, right.
story, because I googled for it, and actually there are just a couple of mentions about
Mm.
the book, so it seems very pretty unknown, I'd say.
Yes, yeah. Um, so if I go back to the beginning page, so um, the publisher, this is the publishing here. So Kamchat Press Publishing. So Kamchat is a place in Kamchatsky, I should say, is a place in Russia, in the very far east of Russia, the complete opposite side of Russia from where Moscow is. Go back another page. Um, so the writer is Roman Rudin. It was written over 10 years ago now, and it was translated. It was translated um, into Russian, into English from the Russian. And this guy here, Anthony Burstow, he's a member of the Sounds of English group, and he's come along to a number of the
Great.
walks.
Mhm.
And so I've met him a good number of times. And I did actually ask him, if I go back to the first story again, I asked him how to say this name. And I was saying Lautréamont. And he was saying, no, it's more Lautréamont. I'm still not doing it quite right. So it's, I think Mont, Mont is effectively short for mountain. But the French don't say it that way. It's more Mont, Mont. So yeah, and he guided me a little bit how to say that. So he gave a lot of emphasis to the R, and I think he pronounced the A. And this is from memory, so I might be wrong. If I ask him again, he may say I'm still wrong. So le Traiamont, I think is how it should be said. But again, there was a chap about over 100 years ago, I think. I think and he took up this name. This wasn't actually his name, but he gave himself this name, I believe. And interestingly, I think he was born in Argentina. So this is a Russian guy writing this story, and he's called it Lautréamont. And there really was a guy called Lautréamont in Argentina. And he was, I think, a poet and a philosopher. But he was born to French parents. And when he left Argentina, he went to France to study. And I think he died in France in his 20s, I think. So there are some interesting bits of the story, like it might almost be true. Because there really was a French person called with this name, and he went to France, and he came from Argentina, etc., etc. But I don't think he built a compiler. Fascinating story, though, isn't it? Because we're only halfway through, effectively. So, anything you want to say about this? I'm just making the little.
If I understand correctly,
Mm.
uh, it's not a whole story. Yes.
Well, we've only read one page and half of this page, but if I go to the next page, that's the end of it. So we
Uh,
haven't quite read to the end, but give it 3 or 4 more minutes, we could do. And I think I read the story in 7 minutes. So I think I read the whole story in 7 minutes originally. So it's almost like an outline of another story that could be written, isn't it? Or a film or something. It's just like an idea of a story, isn't it? It's a very, very short story. If I go,
I didn't catch the energy. So compiles
mm,
consume great amount of energy, which
mm,
equal to mankind energy. Yeah, and then even more energy consumed. Yes.
I would say this bit here, it's a bit woolly. It's not 100% clear what it's saying, I would say. And it might be because that's the way it is in the Russian, or maybe I think that's how it is in the Russian, to be honest. I think it's a sort of very direct translation.
I think in this paragraph, so in the paragraph that Michael mentioned,
Hmm.
he predicted something that is happening right now. So if we think about
Hmm.
the energy consuming problem of
Hmm.
AI,
Hmm.
it's almost the same problem.
Yes.
mm, and he described in advance because now
Hmm.
we are questioning about the amount of energy
Yeah.
AI systems
Yeah.
need in terms of giving us answers
Hmm.
or maybe
To do their
keeping the
work.
system cool or refrigerated because of
Yeah.
the life of computers. So I think he described in advance
Hmm.
a problem we are going to face, I suppose.
Yeah, we are facing, yes, spot on. I agree with you. It's extraordinary, really, that 2014 these stories were put together, I think, and it's essentially talking about things we're experiencing now. Slightly differently, of course, but yes. Mhm. Yeah, so the energy produced by mankind used to operate compilers on a global scale almost equaled the cost of lighting, heating, movement of all modes of transport, maintenance of life, and production of all kinds of goods, including the compilers themselves. So it's a bit confusing what it's saying. It's not quite clear, but it's talking about a large amount of energy being used up, I guess. Well, it's saying it was almost equal to, wasn't it? So it's talking about operating the compilers. It's almost the same amount of energy, all these other things, including the compilers themselves. So it's a little bit confusing, isn't it? But it's making you think about that little passage, isn't it? There was a couple of other little places at the very beginning. The story is introduced up here. I originally thought there might be two people. So it says, so it starts up with it's called Lautréamont, and so we guess it's about this person, assuming it is a person's name. But we don't know that at the beginning, I guess. It says, at the very beginning of the century, when the internet had not yet been banned, which in itself is amazing because it is half banned in Russia now, isn't it? Because you can't really get YouTube and all sorts of other sort of useful functions because it's half banned anyway. So
Ah,
a, cu-
yeah.
a curious work came into my hands by an unknown inventor who claimed that that he had constructed an instrument which could transmit small objects, and it goes on. And so you wonder, well, is this Lautréamont? Or is it someone else? It seems a bit strange to have the title right there, then it talks about someone completely different. Well, it seems, at least in my mind, it's talking about someone different. And then later on, it talks about, does it mention Lautréamont here? I can't remember now. So I think back here, you suddenly realise it's Lautréamont. Is that the same chap, I should say? Oh, I don't know. Doesn't matter really. I had to laugh about the the silver atoms had been turned in the transformer into streams of free electrons, protons. What do you think about that? There's a little bit here when the silver is being turned into electrons and protons and neutrons and sent down the telephone. I said the telephone, sent down the wires, I should say.
I'm curious about another thing. Uh, when
Mm,
the next page compiles can produce the same things at a distance, yes, but not transmitting uh, uh, from elements that were all around. I'm curious how, if I would like to transmit some gold,
yeah.
ingot of gold or something else, it's
Mm,
when the compiles find the
Actually,
element.
the story begins describing, if I remember well,
mm,
the transmission of this is
mm,
description small uniform objects. So
mm,
it's
mm,
ingot a small object made of
mm,
uniform material. But actually, if we think about 3D printers, actually we can do in a distance the same thing. So I can have a program and print maybe a pen at Michael's house, and
say, yeah.
Michael's can write with a pen made of ink, plastics, and metals
Mm,
in his house. So um, maybe in this novel we have a different way. So kind of the materialization of objects, and then they take their form in another place, but actually we can do the object in another place, maybe not
mm,
having the basic components of the same object. And also in the when in the author says when the internet had not yet been banned,
mm,
it could be also an hypothetical future. So when
mm,
internet will have the capability to allow people to build or to have objects in their hands, it was
mm,
banned, and so he invented another form of to make object real. So probably someone decided to ban the internet also because he was changing the market,
mm,
because people were able to share objects or to have also dangerous objects in their
yeah.
hands
It's too
because of
powerful. Mm,
the new printers we have. And as a
mm,
reaction to this ban, Lautréamont decided to dismantle the objects and transfer them in another place. But it's very open situation.
well, just to conclude a little bit then. So, not this is the last paragraph of the story. It says, not long ago, the great inventor, so Lautréamont again, banned the internet. So Lautréamont himself bans the internet at the very end. I won't spoil the story. So it's fascinating. So at the beginning of the story, he's talking about it hadn't been banned yet, and it gets banned at the very end of the story. And it's Lautréamont himself who
Yeah,
bans
probably at
bans the
that point,
internet.
internet was supposed to be banned, or
Yeah,
we
but it's
was
interesting.
going to be banned, or we
Yeah,
know.
but it sort of puts at what you're saying. You're saying so Le Traitement sees that the internet is too powerful in a sense. I think that's why he banned it. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah, but in this sentence is a
Mm,
little bit controversial, because when the internet been
mm,
has not yet been banned, is impersonal. So there was probably in this moment there was no idea by Lautréamont to ban the internet. So after his discoveries, he decided to ban the internet. So it was something quite happening, but then he made the final decision. So it is, yeah, it is nice.
It's very interesting points. So, Michael or Ruslan, anything to add to that, or to contradict what Giuseppe is saying, or what I have said?
So this is text for me is very difficult. I can't catch the main meaning of this, yeah, and
Okay.
this looks for me very difficult.
But you can't catch the main meaning, but you can see some of the ideas. So at the beginning, he's
Yeah,
talking about banning the internet. This idea of transmitting things around the world. He starts out just only just about able to do it. It took about 10 years to transmit 10 grams of silver, but he proved the principle. And then you see he gradually gets better and better, and bigger and more important things are able to be transmitted. And then it ends up on the next page, well, let's not bother transmitting them, let's just make them fresh out of materials that are already around us. So you don't have to transmit a microwave. Let's just make it out of the stuff that's here already. So, and that's really the bulk of the story, I think, there. A lot of the detail I've missed out, of course. um, I don't fully understand why it talks about the law of the conservation of matter had been. I'll read it to you again here. So the law of the conservation of matter. Do you all understand what that is? What it's talking about there? I mean, I think I do, but so the law of the conservation of matter had an appended, so added onto it, section known as Lautréamont's theorem, according to which matter exists in the form of information. So that's just his little idea. I think there's a certain amount of truth to that, isn't there? That because they talk about black holes as losing information, I think, don't they? And they now sort of talk about, well, you can sort of talk about information as being as important as matter now. I think they say. I'm no expert on that.
Yeah,
Someone please correct
I
me.
think here he changes the point of view from atoms, so protons, neutrons, electrons, to pieces of information. So if we think about the statement in nature, nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, but everything is transformed. And this is the law that is quoted here. And in terms of bricks of atoms,
Ingots?
yeah,
Okay.
everything is made of kind of bricks, but they are not bricks, they are pieces of information. So he changes the basis of the materials from something that we can describe as particles to something that we describe as pieces of information. So we can move pieces of information and create the materials.
Yeah.
So
I
it is.
suppose, yeah,
I
very
think
true.
I think the adjective we have in this reading, so omnipotent, is the essence of the reading. So is moving through from the position of probably a curious man or a scientist to a position of being omnipotent. So I don't know how the story ends, but I think that the adjective omnipotent is the core of the
Yes.
story. So
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this is one of the key words in the whole story. That's true, I think. I think you're spot on, actually. Thinking about it, because I have read the whole story, but really the whole story is this other side here, and there's 10, 20, 30 words on the next page, I think. So there's not much of a story left. Fascinating discussion there. Very fascinating. Again, Ruslan, Michael, any other comments or views on things?
maybe just curious to know if the process is reversible or not.
Do you mean the information, or do you mean
No,
particles?
I mean the capability to dismantle objects or human beings using these techniques.
No, I think in this next section here, we do read something about that. So I'm thinking that's tomorrow. If you're coming tomorrow, can you make it tomorrow? I don't know, guys. Michael, Ruslan, Giuseppe. If you
Yeah,
can,
maybe
great.
we are going to spend the night thinking about
Yeah,
these questions.
but as you said, so omnipotent or omnipotent, as I said earlier. So that's a characteristic that God has. Only God has that characteristic. People don't have it, but here it's being given to Lautréamont, isn't it? So yeah, and as you said, Giuseppe, I would say that's one of the key moments in the story. Definitely. So, any final comments or
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe you know literature more than me, but could we say that is a dystopic novel, or it is not correct? Is not the right style, the right intention of the author?
It's dystopia. So I think dystopic came from utopia, and the idea is, I think, does utopia mean somewhere that doesn't exist? So whoops. So have I spelled that correctly? Yeah. Oh, so utopia. So let's quickly look at that. So utopia being the opposite of the thing that you just mentioned. I can't remember what you just said now. Dystopia, wasn't it? You said dystopic or dystopia. So if you refer to an imaginary situation as utopia, you mean that it is one in which society is perfect and everyone is happy, but which you feel is not possible. So utopia is the perfect place, but it's also somewhere that doesn't exist. And I think that's originally what the word means, doesn't exist or nowhere. I think basically originally the word means nowhere, something effectively like that. And they're saying synonyms are paradise, heaven, Eden, bliss, etc. So they're not going to have the opposite here, are they? Oh, that's interesting. So it's the 16th century from New Latin utopia, coined by Sir Thomas More in 1516 as the title of his book that describes an imaginary island representing the perfect society. Literally no place, from Greek ou, no, and topos is that a place. So it's from the Greek. But so dystopia is the sort of perfect unhappy place, you might say. I don't know. It's in that direction anyway, but I don't think it's the classic dystopian novel as such. But maybe it's only a very short story. Maybe it is. It's an interesting way of thinking about it. I can't say it definitely isn't, but it's a bit lacking. So far, we haven't really got to the dystopic part of it, really. I think in the dystopic, which is the negative side, and I'm sort of making this word up a little bit here, is probably what's over here, and we can clearly see that this. If I just read this line here out, then to break the mystery of it, and so Lautréamont declared himself God. That is a bit sort of dystopic, isn't it? I would say. So yeah, maybe it
I
is.
find that there is a genre like
Mm.
fiction, speculative fiction,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes,
and this is
mm.
related. This is
Yeah,
looks like speculative fiction when it's fiction and there are many points which were discutable.
d-
Many things without clear answers. So we can
yes,
argue, we can
yes,
have
yes.
conversation, yes, about this.
Mm. It is not going to, as you say, fill every answer or answer every question. It can't do it. It's only a very short story, isn't it? And it's sort of just very tempting. It's very tempting story. There's lots could happen. There's lots you could fill this story out with. So who was Le Triamont's lover? You know, this sort of a thing, and what was his family like? I'm assuming it's a man, maybe it's a woman, but I think it does say he, doesn't it, somewhere? So I'm assuming it is a man. Um, Yeah, fascinating. So Ruslan, anything you want to ask? Perhaps it isn't. It's a little bit harder for you, I think, because you're a little bit struggling slightly, I guess. But anything you want to ask, or
To your explanation, I started to understand the main point of this year.
hmm.
But is it have some evidence or some provement or something else, or it is just story and that's it?
um, so tomorrow, if this,
Uh,
we might
um,
hopefully, if you same guys come along, we obviously will read the bit that we didn't finish off. It may
yeah,
even be
yeah,
worthwhile reading it now. So we haven't actually finished the story. Um, but this is all there is to it. That you've seen all the pages. That
yeah,
small bit there, this one here, and this first page. But in the strange occurrence in the region of the heart, I think there's 12 stories. There might be 10, but I think there might be 12 of them. And so next week we'll be looking at another one. So I'm not quite sure what your question was. If I go back to the beginning again, I think it listed all the stories here. Yeah, so here we go. So copyright notice, Le Traitement, the songs of Maldora, I suppose, the songs of Maladora, no, Maldora, etc., etc. Interestingly, Le Traitement, one of the things he wrote was something called Maladora. So Le Traitement actually wrote a poem, I think it was called Maladora. So, and I've not read this, so I don't know where it goes or anything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, there's only 10 stories there. I thought there was more than that. And the penultimate story is actually called Strange Occurrence in the Region of the Heart. So this week we're doing Le Traitement, Le Traitement, I should say. Next week, hopefully, be the second story, and then the third, fourth in subsequent weeks. Unless we get bored of it, in which we may do it, we may get through them faster. Um, okay. I love how it says something like it would take 3 hours and 3 minutes left to read this book. If the first one took 7 minutes to read, I can't see it being 3 hours, to be honest. Okay. So, Ruslan, will it be worth you coming back again, do you think, say next week or tomorrow or later in the week? Is it helping?
yeah. Is it I think quite good for me to
Mm.
find out more new words and try to understand the meaning. Yeah,
Mm.
I would happy to come tomorrow and
Yeah.
next week. Yeah. Thanks a lot for this. Yeah.
Okay. So for this month, the class is almost certainly going to be free. But when we get into next month and maybe March, about then there'll be most of the classes will be paid for. But normally the class on a Wednesday is free anyway. But it's kind of good in some senses to have the paid for classes because it means that it might presumably be just you and me, or you and one other, perhaps 3 people in total in the class. Keeps it a bit smaller, but there's only 3 here today anyway, so so it's no different for
Of course.
today. Right, so thanks very much for coming, everybody. I hope it's been useful.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, and if you can come tomorrow, do come tomorrow, or come next week, or whenever. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.